about in me and I in you, whatever you at.
It's the Faith Walk Talk Show. We talk about all things faith.
So don't grow weary, do not fear that you'll never get there.
Hi everyone. Yes, you are here now at another episode of the Faith Walk Talk Show. And I am just so excited to have Miss Ariel here. Hi Miss Ariel, how are you doing?
I am doing pretty good.
Awesome, awesome. Well, y'all, I just started the recording, but listen, I have been talking to her before we got on here, and listen, I already know she is just, first of all, she has such a sweet and humble spirit, and I'm just so blessed by God that she is on the show today. And so yes, the Faith Walk Talk Show is just about creating a space for believers to increase their faith. So I know that Miss Ariel has her personal faith walk story that she can tell us about that will help you increase your faith and help you grow in God. And so I am excited, and I just want to make sure that you all know that we will be doing this. I'm thinking about to keep doing it more than just for the Woman of Faith Award. I'm gonna let God lead me on that, because I've gotten so many inboxes and prayers from people saying, don't stop, this is really good, I'm glad you're doing it, it's blessing me. And so I want to be obedient, and I want to make sure God leads me in that way. But let me tell you a little bit about Miss Ariel. She is a wife and a mother. She has learned to turn tragedy into triumphs. She is driven to guide women into becoming their authentic and complete selves. So listen, it's a lot that is so needed in the kingdom. And so Ariel, I told people just a little bit about you, but I mean, there's more. So go ahead and tell people more about you.
Okay, so originally I was born here in Texas, in Marshall, Texas to be exact. But I am from Memphis, Tennessee. So I am a Southern down home type of person. But a lot of my experiences that I've learned have been between Memphis and Dallas. So I always kind of say I'm kind of in between the two. I am married. My husband and I have been married for 6 years, and we have two children, Joshua and Harper. They are like the yin and yang of my life. They keep me busy. Oh, they keep me busy. And then I also have been trying to get into the swing of things. I am a stay-at-home mom. So homeschooling, and my son is getting ready to go to school. And so trying to get into the swing of things of ushering in that new season has been a lot. It has been trying, but it's been a good learning process. And so when I lived in Memphis, the type of family dynamic that I had, I was born and raised in the church, so much so that my grandfather, my great grandfather, both sides of the family, I had uncles, all of them were pastors. So coming from that world was I really didn't have a choice. And back then it was you do as I say, not you don't have a say, you do exactly what I tell you to do. And so I was very, very close with my grandparents. And so my mom, I love her dearly, was in college at the time. And so when she found out that she was actually pregnant with me, there were no signs of pregnancy. My mother was like, she was tall and she looked like a model. So there was no signs of pregnancy. So when the dorm mother, they had dorm mothers at the time, called my grandparents and was like, your daughter just had a baby. They didn't believe her. So they had to drive up. And when they arrived, surprise, here I was. So I was very close with my grandparents. I was raised by them and a lot of family members and a lot of people of the church. So my influence was very widespread. And so as I got older, they had me very much in the church. I grew up Baptist. So there was a lot of, different things that, again, like I didn't have a say in. I had to do, and I was the first grandchild in on that side of the family. So it really was a big spectacle that I was made to do all of these things, and I had to be presented in this type of way. And so, fast forward years later, my grandparents had been married for 50 years, and my grandfather was diagnosed with dementia. And so that really wrecked the family in a way, because he was like the foundation, the model, the mold. Everybody is, aspired to be like him. He was very popular. And then he ended up passing away a few years later. And so we were expecting that. We knew that, that he was going to pass sometime soon. And usually how God works with me is that when somebody close to me is getting ready to pass, he shows it to me in a dream first. I always get it in a dream first, or I get a dream and then I get a song. And so thankfully I was obedient. Talking about obedience. I was obedient. And the Lord told me a year before he passed that I needed to take a trip to Memphis to go see him. And I went, thankfully, and the Lord confirmed to him. He had a dream and was like, oh, well, I just dreamt about your mom, and then here you are. So it was confirmation that I was at the right place. And so after my grandfather passed, I was engaged, I was pregnant. So like that's like a happy time in your life, You're supposed to be enjoying yourself, planning your wedding, getting ready for the baby, doing all those things. And at the beginning of my pregnancy, my grandfather passed. And then by the end of my pregnancy, my grandmother passed. And that was unexpected because she was fine. She had, some small issues and things going on. But when my grandfather passed, she was like, listen, y'all, we're going to have Easter. Holidays was a big deal in my family. So she cooked for Easter. She cooked for, holidays. She was a hostess. And so she had like these monogram like plates, and like she did it up. So she cooked for us that last year, and she was like, well, listen, she said, y'all need to go ahead and make sure y'all take all y'all pictures, because I'm not going to be here much longer. And so initially I'm here, my spidey senses is going off, and I'm like, no, that's not, I just didn't want to believe that's what there was. And so everybody's like, no, don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. And so we took our pictures and everything. And maybe a few days after that, my grandmother wasn't feeling well. They had to take her to the hospital. And then eventually she ended up going to rehab because she was having issues with her lungs. So we got her situated into rehab, made sure, we would visit frequently. And then the last day, so the day that I knew something wasn't right, my mother and I were the last to see her alive. So we went, normal day. I had to go to work that day. It was a Friday. So I'm like, I really don't want to leave. And I keep feeling this feeling like I don't want to leave her. Why am I feeling this? So my mom and my grandmother did not have the best relationship. And so to see how they were interacting, it was really beautiful. They were very affectionate. And so I was like, what is going on? So the Lord told me to take a picture. So I took this picture of them, and it was a beautifully shot, the way that they were talking to each other. So we left, got ready to leave, told my grandmother, I love you. And so she kept looking at us with this look of like, y'all are going to be okay. Y'all are going to be all right. And so we're walking out, and I turn and I look, and I see that she's staring at us as we're walking out. And I'm like, okay, something is up. We leave. The next morning, we find out that she had to go to the hospital for heart issues, a heart failure. And over the next 7 days, I think it was 7 days, they had her on life support. And so that journey of having to decide when to pull her off, when to, to fight and to, to keep praying and she's going to make it through, was very, very difficult. So eventually she ended up passing away. And maybe a few months after that, that really devastated me. That really broke me. You know, we all have something that breaks us down, but that broke me. I was toe up from the flow up. I couldn't function. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. And probably 3 weeks after she passed, I had just given birth to my son, Joshua. So I had postpartum. I was just a mess. So I was laying on my mother's couch, crying, woe is me. And as clear as I'm talking to you, I hear tea time with Nana. And I'm like, God, what is that? So I get up and I'm walking around my mama's apartment like, wait, what was that? And so he said, tea time with Nana. I said it again. And so over time, he, explained what it was. And it was the ministry and the legacy to continue in my grandmother's honor. So my grandmother, what we called her is Nana. And so that is the ministry that I am continuing on in her legacy.
That's so beautiful. I just listen. I didn't grow up with my grandparents, so I believe that is such a blessing to have a set of grandparents, that love you, that nurture you and grow you into a woman of God. That's awesome. So listen. I appreciate the ministry that you have in honor of your grandmother, because so many women of faith have undergirded me, and this is why I have the talk show now, is to honor those women. So I'm so glad that you can honor your grandmother in this space with us today. So thank you.
You are welcome.
Yes, that's so beautiful. um so in your personal faith walk with losing your grandmother, um how did that really play out for you? um
Whew. Well, honestly, I would say if it wasn't for that situation, my faith would not have been as strong as it is. And I'm just being honest. Um, my faith now, you can't pull me away from God. You just can't. It's just it's just gonna be what it is. We are a package deal. But starting out, like I said, I grew up in the church, but the type of environment was very green leaf. Okay. So when you're thinking like, oh, I grew up in a church and it was all great. No, no, no. It was green leaf. It was exactly that. There was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of deception behind the scenes that I was seeing. And because you're a kid, they're not really thinking like, oh, she's understanding what's happening and what's going on. And so, I'm seeing, people that I love and I care about, they're preaching, and I see them with their Bibles, but some of the things that they live in didn't look the same. And so now I'm confused. And so I was very confused about, okay, well, if God is like this, then why are y'all doing this? And, why are you talking to me, in a crazy way? That's not honoring God. That's not honoring yourself or me. And so for a long time, I struggled with my relationship. I knew that he was always there, but to have questions about, understanding scripture and understanding how to apply that to my life as a child and as a teen, I had no idea. And when I would ask, I would get told stay in the child's place. So that was the type of air that I was in. So it wasn't until I left, I moved out of Memphis and came to Dallas is really where I found my village. And so it got to a point where, things were happening along the way, as, you keep living, trouble happens. But it wasn't until my grandfather passed, I was okay. When my grandmother passed, that I like to say that really uprooted my foundation, that really got my attention. And then the person that really taught me, that really mentored me, that was my spiritual mother and really became my family, passed away from cancer. And that just obliterated my entire relationship. Like, God, who are you? Why are you doing this? What is this for? I was always told, like, you're not supposed to question God. You're not supposed to, ask him questions like that. But in the midst of all of the grief and all of the heartbreak and the tears and the depression, really, this experience has encouraged my faith. And one of the biggest ways that it's done that is by God showing himself to me and showing that it's okay to ask questions. Like, you can ask him questions. It is a relationship. I think that's one of the biggest pet peeves that I just absolutely despise. Ask God questions. He's not so big that he's so far away from you that you can't reach him. And one of the ways that we reach him is by asking. He knows that we're still human. And so if those are things that he understands about us, he understands the human side of us, he knows that we're going to wonder and we're going to have questions. So it's okay to, God, I really don't understand why this is happening. Where are you in this? It is okay to ask those things. And
And
so for me,
I was gonna just add to that. I just really think that what people have to understand when they talk about questioning God. You are not questioning the sovereignty of God. That is not what you're questioning. You're not questioning that He is the Alpha and the Omega. That is not the question here, because we know that God holds all power in His hand. We know that He is the one and true and only God. That's not the question here. Okay. Right. The question is, you're asking God about specific situations in your life. And I believe that people twist that a little bit when you say you have questions for God. It's not about questioning who He is, because we know who He is. It's about working through our issue of what we're dealing with. And you ask God, why did this happen? Well, what do you want me to do in this situation? And so I don't want anybody to get that twisted, because people look at that question part like, you ain't supposed to do that. Don't do that. But at the same time, we need to just kind of clarify that that's not what she's saying. She's not questioning God's sovereignty at all. It was just dealing with her situation. And I believe when you start to have that dialogue with God, God will give you what you're looking for. He will give it to you. I mean, I have a certain, not similar, but I lost my father, and horrible situation. Listen, so my dad, he was a good father, but he wasn't the best man he could have been. Okay. And so when my daddy had two families, we were his second family. And when my father died, his other children decided not to call us to let us know that he passed away. So I had already purposed it on my heart to go up there and see my dad in the nursing home. He died, and I did not know. Me and my daughter at the time, she was like 7, 8, took her up there with me, and my dad is laying in the bed, gone, girl, gone. This the kidding part. Let me tell you how good God is. And this is why you have to, like, in situations like this is why you truly need to know who God is.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know he had passed. And even when I walked in the room, I still did not perceive he was gone. Okay. He was I walked in fussing because she had him laying flat. And I said, my daddy don't like to lay like that. I said, could you sit him up? But he still had this, like, he was kind of like a peaceful look. And I was like, oh, he sure is sleeping peaceful. I walked in fussing. I'm like, can y'all sit him up? Because I know he doesn't like to lay flat. I was like, but he looked like he's sleeping peaceful. I said, so I don't know. So I came in talking to the hospice nurse like that. Still had not perceived that he was gone. Okay. Still hadn't, I mean, it had not hit me. The nurse said, did your brother call you? I said, no. She said, well, we set him like we cleaned him up and we laid him flat because we wanted y'all to come by and see the body. I looked at her. I said, are you telling me my daddy's gone? She said, yes. And listen, the weight on my knees buckled and I hit the floor. But to tell you about that is to tell you about how good God is.
Yeah.
Because even in that, what was meant to hurt me, what was meant to hurt my family, God turned it around because she notified him first, but I made it there first. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I made it there first and did not know the knowledge that he had passed on. Do you see what I'm saying? So the power of God is God took care of me. You know, I didn't want to walk in there with my child, but I beat him there. How is it that you know first, but I beat you there?
Yeah.
I beat you there. You know, that's just how God worked. You know, God allowed me that time with my dad, right? To just, you know, I was devastated because I was a daddy's girl, but God allowed me that time. And that's just the power of how God's power will work in your life. He will take care of you.
Yeah.
You know, so I know what you're saying in situations that just kind of break you down. Like, and listen, I had not girl, listen, I'm just so naive. I didn't even realize that was something that was meant to hurt me at the time. Do you see what I'm saying? It was only hindsight where I had seen, I said, oh wow, that was meant to hurt me. That was meant to, that you was trying to keep me from seeing my daddy before they took him on to the funeral home. How crazy is that? So I know what you mean when I say a hurtful a situation, like with somebody that you love that takes you, girl. It took me to a place, you know, because even though my daddy had two families, he was the only father I knew. He was my daddy. You know, it's not like, you know, my mom had another husband or another boyfriend. My mama never dated anybody else after my daddy. So that was all that I ever known was him. That's my daddy. So I know what you're talking about when you say that situation where you listen, it's just such a difficult situation because I felt like dad was kind of like the mediator between us and our other siblings because he didn't let us fight. He didn't let us get into it, you know? So like you said, like the held the family together. My daddy held the family together. You know, he would tell you don't act like that and you don't act like that. And y'all family, y'all need to act right. You know, he just always held us together. And so when he was gone, girls, like I always tell me and my sisters make this joke now, we call it Ragnarok happened. You know, you seen Ragnarok?
Come on, Marvel.
Ragnarok happened. Listen, Helena came in there and just changed the game on everybody, you know.
Just said, look, all right, I'm leveling the whole playing field. Just everything got to go. Just got to go.
Yeah, that's what we call it. So yeah, I do understand where you say like a situation is just everything was like you didn't even realize how much the presence of a person in your life is so significant, and even what they were protecting you from. Yeah, my dad, he protected us from things that I didn't perceive, you know, growing up, and just even as an adult, I just didn't perceive it. You know, I didn't perceive that maybe there was issues with our siblings with us, you know. I just didn't perceive it, you know. But I thank God for having a father who cared that much to protect us, right? He wasn't the best man, but he was a good father to us, and he taught us a lot of things. So I do understand. And listen, and my daddy was 74. So he was grandma's age, right? He was grandma's age, you know.
And you know what? It's funny that you mentioned Ragnarok as it pertains to faith. A lot of times we're not aware of how God how he loves us so much that even the time of somebody's passing is a blessing to us, and we don't even see that. Because had he took him out at a different time, the level of faith that you would have had would have been completely different. I know for me that if he would have took my grandmother before or after, I would not have been the same the same person sitting in the seat and understanding that, okay, God, even in your time, that you love us so much that there was a specific time that you decide to take a loved one away. Mm-hmm. And for me, I had already been prepared. So God had already been preparing me for it. My grandmother and I had been having conversations, you know, maybe months or weeks prior. Same thing with my grandfather. Same thing with my sister. All the conversations that needed to be had, I'm grateful that God allowed me to have them. So when they passed, I had no worries, I had no questions, I had no concerns, because everything had been fulfilled. But for other family members, they didn't get that. And so seeing how even something as we think is small as just the timing of a thing is huge to God for us, because we know that he's the master of time, but how it works and how it affects us can alter your faith life. And so if anybody is in a moment where they have lost a family member and that's something that they're questioning, I would just encourage you to remember that God still loves you and that he is still the master of time. And so at the time that he decided to take that loved one, that was the right time. Look for those signs, look for those moments of those nuggets of faith that he's going to use after that experience to build up your faith in him, because it's necessary.
And I wanted just to say that in that situation, I could choose to look at like how I felt like we were being attacked. I could choose to just really be upset about that. I'm gonna tell you what God did. He really helped me see how much of a true father he is to me.
Yeah.
And even when my father passed, he was still a father. So God really showed me himself. And even though it was a hurtful situation, I still saw how much of a father and a friend God was to me.
Yeah.
Um, and the beauty of just being just knowing that I was cared for that much, that what was meant to hurt me or distract me or take something away from me that truly should have been mine, God didn't allow it to happen.
He gave it to you anyway.
He gave it to me anyway. So that's why when people say, when people you think people think with if they don't give you something, then you're not gonna get it. Let me just tell you, what you think you're not gonna give something to somebody, God will give it to them anyway, because it's not yours to give. It's from God. You can't
Right.
take it and you can't give it. Listen. So you birth Tea Time with Nana came forth from the passing of your grandmother. And so what exactly is Tea Time with Nana? What do you do with that?
Okay. So kind of like we was talking before, God gave me something I didn't want. I didn't want this. I didn't want to do it. I straight up fought for months. God, no, I'm not doing it. Okay. You just saw what just happened.
Yeah.
I'm not going through none of that. God was like, you gonna serve me or you gonna serve me? I said no. For some of us, we don't have a choice in the matter. It's not a yes or no. God is like, no, you're gonna do this. Okay, we too far in the game. You gonna do this. So my grandmother, one of the best things that my grandmother did for me was she drug me along to tea parties. Now, like I said, my grandmother was a hostess. Okay. She was a first lady. She was very like, she had her degree in like home economics. Like she was like, that chick. Okay. And so we could not go anywhere without somebody knowing who she was. It was that irritating. She loved people. She loved serving people. But, when it came to, things in the home life, I'm not going to pretend like everything was hunky dory, because it wasn't. So we kind of had a night and day type of situation with my grandmother. But when she was really like at her best, one of the things that she imparted in me was the importance of legacy. Since I was the first, grandchild, there were no other kids. So I was around adults a lot, older women. And so she would take me to like different tea parties of, friends of hers, or, for this ministry or for that ministry. And it was an amazing experience for me, because I got to see women from all walks of life. It was white, it was black, they were Indian, just different categories coming together for a genuine purpose. Whatever the theme of that tea was, they was ready, booted, and suited for that purpose. They had teas that were fundraisers. I remember going to a tea for a cancer fundraiser, and that kind of struck home with me at the time, because my sister had cancer at the time. She had just kind of found out that she had leukemia. And so that was like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful cause. I think I was 16 at the time. And so it really inspired me and made me more accountable of my presence in the room, and how important it is to know that as a woman, that when you step into a space, there is a presence in the room